Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome again to the weekly ADM Agriculture Market Update. This week, I'm joined by our rapeseed trader, Will Ringrose. Will's going to give us a bit of an insight into what's been a pretty wild rapeseed market in the last 12 months. So, Will, what's been happening?
Yeah, morning, Jonathan. It's been a really interesting time over the last couple of months. In fact, since we probably left for our Christmas break, since we returned in January, the tight S&D really has taken hold of the market, and you can just see from probably the beginning of January through to Feb, and a vast increase in prices from Feb through to where we're currently sitting now. Is just a true reflection of how tight rapeseed is in the global complex.
Absolutely. And what have been the principal drivers for that?
I mean, there's been quite a few influences, really. Obviously, going back into last year, we've got coronavirus, which has been one of the main topics for the last year and a half now. We had the US election, US-China trade war, swine flu. And just recently, in more reference to soybeans than the rape complex, we've had South American weather issues.
Okay, and I guess a lot of this has been driven by demand for veg oils. How has that played out in recent times?
Yeah, certainly the veg oil market in particular has been one of the key drivers over the last few months. Obviously, when coronavirus first hit, we saw a big downturn in the veg oil consumption, in fact, oil consumption as a whole. Biodiesel demand pretty much fell off a cliff when everyone went into lockdown. As you can see, the chart in the middle there of crude palm prices fell through the floor with the fear of what was going to happen with demand going forward. But in actual fact, we saw food demand and general food consumption increase as people went into lockdown, though the chart on the left would indicate that biofuel demand, though it fell, hasn't recovered at the same rate. And the chart on the far right there just purely highlights how veg oil consumption over the last few years is continuously increasing, yet production seems to be falling behind in some respect, and that hasn't quite caught up yet.
That's interesting. You touch on production, and you mentioned earlier how tight the S&D is. What's been the situation this year from a production point of view in the EU?
Yeah, EU production is obviously not what it was a couple of years ago. Obviously, we've seen a sharp decline from back where we were back in 2014. We seem to have plateaued a little bit since then, but the EU remains heavily reliant on imports. And I'm talking like imports from Australia, Canada and the likes. And at the moment, they haven't been available in the volumes that we would expect to have seen a couple of years ago, purely because other destinations have been key buyers of either rape oil or rape seed in general, and that's been taken away from Europe. Okay,
and close to home, what's been the situation here in the UK?
Yeah, obviously a similar situation in terms of production. We've seen a sharp decline, mainly due to the fact that flea beetle damage has become more prominent in recent years with the lack of neonics. It has stabilised now for the last couple of seasons, but we're still producing around 1 million tonnes, so we're still in a deficit essentially. And again, we're reliant on imports, mainly from Europe, Australia, and the likes. Going forward, I think the prospects for rapeseed are quite good. We hopefully have got on top of the flea beetle damage to a large extent, and I think sort of price indications going forward remain in a bullish trend. There's a need for veg oil, and the UK farm is in a very good situation or position to capitalise on that.
So hopefully, with margins looking better with these higher prices, we may see a return to more rapeseed plantings as we go forward into next year?
I certainly hope so, yes.
Great stuff. Will, thank you very much. That's been an interesting, rapid insight into the rapeseed complex. If anybody has any questions, please either get in touch with their ADM Agriculture farm buyer, or alternatively, use the contact details at the end of this video. Thanks again, Will. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.